Talk about, respond to his assertion, the Charlie Brown idea of North Korea, which we've heard before, and then bring that to Iran, and maybe Bruce can jump in on actually how to deal with Iran. Before we go down the road to nuclear elimination, we have to get over this, among other things, this Iranian hump. But go on to the North Korea.
So first, where we would agree is that we don't know if the North Korean process is going to succeed or not. We don't know, but it's not Lucy in the football, because it's not a matter of trusting that Lucy's going to keep the football there when Charlie Brown goes up to kick it. None of this is based on trust. The whole mechanism has been designed to do what they call step for step, action for action. They take a step, we take a step. They take another step, we take a step. So for example, they gave us just last week the inventory, their declaration of what they had. We took them off the nuclear, the terror list. There's only 2 countries on it, North Korea and Cuba. We took North Korea off, opening up various trade possibilities between the United States and North Korea. They in turn then blew up their cooling tower at Yongbyon. We then sent a shipment of fuel oil. This is the way it's going. So at every step of the way, if they're not performing the way we want, we can pull back. And everything is based on verification. And a big part of all these agreements is verification. So when we did this same deal with Libya, for example, it wasn't a matter of trusting Muammar Gaddafi. He gave us a declaration. He then let us in, and we in the IAEA inspected their whole arsenal, what they had, and the entire Libyan nuclear weapons program is now in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. We moved it out lock, stock, and barrel. So that's the kind of agreements we're talking about. And as long as there's sufficient incentives on both sides, that's the model for how you can do this kind of agreement with an untrustworthy regime like North Korea, and perhaps even with Iran.
Bruce, can you talk about Iran for a second?
Yeah.
And keep going where he's going.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we should apply the same political science experiment that we applied to North Korea to Iran. That we learn the good lessons from that experience, and we apply the principles that seem to be the most promising in the case of Iran. And that seems to me to be a case for a direct conversation over a deal that would provide some security assurance to Iran, the same way that we bit the bullet on North Korea and are providing security assurances to North Korea. Talk to them, see where this goes. The second point about Iran is that I think we should remember the case of the Israeli attack on the Asyric reactor in Iraq in 1981. I think the prevailing view of that now is that Saddam Hussein did not have a nuclear weapons program at that time, but that 3 months after the attack by the Israelis to destroy that reactor, Saddam Hussein ordered his government, his military, to begin a nuclear bomb program. If that's true, and I think it is, I've talked to the father of the Iraqi nuclear bomb program at some length about this. I can't vouch for his veracity, but I think that there's a very strong consideration here to keep in mind, which is that if Israel or the United States or any other country bombs Iran, although I think that they do have a nuclear weapons program, and it goes on and off, and it may go on again, that certainly would be kind of the nail in the coffin on their aspirations, that they, after that, would definitely conclude that the only protection against external aggression would be to have the bomb. The third thing about Iran, like all the other countries that we project may proliferate in the decades ahead, is that to get real diplomatic leverage on these countries, we all have to join into a common obligation for the elimination of nuclear weapons. If we did that seriously, if the United States really undertook to perform on its obligation under the Non-Proliferation Treaty to, quote, negotiate in good faith to eliminate nuclear weapons, then we would be in a very strong position to say we're going to protect the zero nuclear weapons future for the world at all costs. We're going to do our part, the United States, Russia, eventually Israel, but Iran is going to have to do its part, and we're going to hold its feet to the fire in order to to ensure that that happens.
John, and then let's have Andrew respond to all this.
Yeah, there's one very important point that has not been made yet here about the connection between U.S. nuclear weapon policy and the incentives of many of these other countries to either acquire nuclear weapons or keep their options open. And that is that the United States, nearly 20 years after the end of the Cold War, continues to reserve the right to use nuclear weapons first, including against countries that do not possess them, under circumstances that we determine. Our policy is not, as most American citizens suspect, a pure retaliatory policy. Most American citizens, polls show, believe that the United States policy is we will only use nuclear weapons if someone else attacks us or our allies with nuclear weapons. That is not our policy. We have threatened implicitly and explicitly since early in the Cold War to use nuclear weapons first under a variety of circumstances that we reserve the right to specify. And when other countries in the world see the United States with a declared position of reserving the right to use nuclear weapons against them, and with a declared interest in developing new types of nuclear weapons and testing them, which is one of the reasons we have failed to ratify the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, to keep open the option of testing nuclear weapons, other countries say the United States continues to think these weapons are the currency of international power and leverage against us. If they think their only defense against nuclear attack by the United States is to acquire their own, that's what they will do. I will tell you one brief story. I was meeting shortly after the United States invaded Iraq with the former head of the Chinese nuclear weapon program and his colleagues at the Nuclear Weapon Design Institute of China, with whom I happen to have been acquainted for quite a number of years. And they asked me, they said, can you explain to us why the United States has attacked Iraq, which does not have nuclear weapons, and has not attacked North Korea, which does? And of course, they knew the answer was obvious. We attacked Iraq because we could. And we didn't attack North Korea because we couldn't. One should not imagine that that lesson has been lost on most of the rest of the world.